Hi everyone, Pepper Hernandez from drpepperhernandez.com coming to you today with another exciting little video. Today we're going to be talking about microdosing. Even Riley's excited about this one. Microdosing is a really hot topic right now. Everyone's into microdosing. So we are going to be doing an article on microdosing. We're also going to be having people on our podcast talking about different types of microdosing, which is going to be awesome. So if you haven't gone over to the Quantum Alignment podcast, I encourage you to go over and listen and see if you like it. But today, these questions come to me from an avid listener who wanted to know more about microdosing because we had kind of peppered it into one of our podcasts back in 2019. And these are a few of the questions that prompted me to write an article on microdosing, as well as my other podcast, Destiny, which is based out of Southern California, which is on iHeartRadio. If you listen to that, you can hear me talking all about microdosing. So today, I'm bringing you the what, the how, the why, and some tips on how to microdose. So first off, what is microdosing, right? Microdosing is when you take a very small, tiny, subtherapeutic dose of medication, whether it be plant form or synthetic-based form. What you're doing with microdosing is you're increasing the maximum positive effects and kind of releasing or minimizing the negative effects. So some people who are microdosing, say cannabis, for example, which is mostly what this video is going to be about, if they're microdosing THC in very small amounts or very small forms, they're going to get all the benefit, but they're not going to get the negative or negative side effects of THC or doing too much THC. So that's what microdosing is. And we can also see people microdosing mushrooms, psilocybin. We can see people microdosing LSD and getting positive effects from this type of medicine, minimizing the ill effects. Now, I don't suggest that you try anything other than cannabis microdosing, obviously, because that's what I do. But you know, there is a lot of research being done on anxiety and PTSD across the board with all of these natural plant medicines on a therapeutic level, and microdosing is the best way to get it involved into your body. So why do we want to do this? Because really, people who are consuming cannabis are typically using and ingesting way more than the body even needs. The body has its endocannabinoid system. Yes, humans do, and other animals do in the animal kingdom as well. But we're consuming just probably way too much. And typically, when you go into a dispensary, or you're asking the bud tender, who you're pretty much putting your life into their hands at that point, if you're not speaking to a cannabis educated physician or a cannabis therapy consultant or a person who is both, then you're basically just kind of Googling things and then going in and asking whoever, not even asking if they're certified in cannabis education or not, but you're asking that person, hoping to goodness that they've taken a couple classes and they know what they're talking about, and they're also educated on their products. You're asking them what to take for this particular illness or discomfort and how much to take, which is really just, I think of it as air Yahtzee. It's just like, what we need to do a little bit more than that, which, more and more people are recognizing that bud tenders need more education and the dispensaries need more education, because it's basically like open pharmacy. So why do we microdose? Let me get myself more comfortable. Hold on just a second. I'm going to get this little pillow back here too. Oh yeah, that's the jam. Okay. So why microdosing is so important and why it is something that I typically suggest out to all of my clients, friends, and family, and even do for myself, is because what you can do is you can do small amounts and then build up and then add to, right? So you can always do more, but you can't take away. And anyone that's had too much of an edible, they know this to be true, right? And there's certain things that are going to go through your system much faster and you're going to feel the effects quicker than not. So for example, if you're looking at concentrates, a dab, you're going to feel that very quickly. If you're smoking, live rosin, that's a very quick something. If you're doing tincture under the tongue, that can, if you watched my video on the tinctures and I dosed on film, like I felt that in a couple minutes, and you could tell by the end of that video I was feeling it. But that can take anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes if it's a very good CBD, if it's a full spectrum, if it's real cannabis. Smoking can take just a few minutes, up to 5 or 10 minutes. And there's edibles, and edibles people get really confused on, because what they'll do is they will consume the edible and then 20 or 30 minutes later they'll think that it hasn't hit, and then they'll consume a little bit more, and then before you know it, the first batch has hit and they haven't even got to the second one yet. So microdosing is the way to find out if you're stepping into this cannabis world. It's the best way to find out how it works for you and what particular cultivar. Because if you do just a little teeny tiny bit of a cultivar that you don't really care for or that doesn't work well for you, then you'll know, and you can back off and not do that, instead of having a very altered sense of what people can call like a trip with a cannabis edible. You can completely minimize the negative side effects of something like that by doing microdosing. So people who are doing it and why they're doing it, honestly, a lot of people turn to drugs and alcohol. Xanax is probably the most popular. They'll turn to these for minor issues. And when I say minor issues, I mean not chronic, like the minor issues being anxiety and depression and pain management and just taking the sharp edges off of life. Now, anxiety and depression are huge, by the way. They are life-altering, they're debilitating, and they are nothing to push to the side and say it's a minor issue. I've suffered with those myself, and those are huge. So I'm not undermining that at all. But what I am saying is, for these particular issues, cannabis microdosing could be super beneficial for focus, better function, just to alter and shift life just a little bit, enough to feel a difference. So that is the what and the why. And that's Riley dog shaking. It's time for him to go. Is it time for us to go home? Yeah, he thinks so. But I'm going to finish this video. Can you sit for me? Can you sit? Good boy. Stay. So the other things I wanted to talk about really quickly was negative effects of having too much cannabis. If you have too much cannabis, this could alter your senses. This could change your mood. It could impair your body movement. You could feel really foggy or fatigued, or you could have difficulty thinking or problem solving. This is a huge piece. And if you're having all of those put together because you've had just a little bit too much of a high THC edible, it could feel very, very scary and very frightening, which can then lead people away from wanting to do cannabis at all. So what we want to do is we want to do microdosing. Now, we know that microdosing helps us get to the exact proper dosage of anything that we want. So again, I don't think I have to mention this because I mention it in every video, but it needs to be local, it needs to be organic, it needs to be clean, and it needs to be free of, if you're doing edibles, free of like funny food colorings and sugars. Treat it like organic food. It needs to be top quality if you're going to put it in your body. All the other stuff is convenience store, what we call up here Walmart weed. Not good. Do not be doing that. Go to the other videos and find out what kinds of things you should be using. Once you've dialed that in, you dialed in your particular terpenes, cannabinoid profile, and you know what you're getting, and you're doing this for a medicinal reason, and you know what body system it is that you're wanting to work with. And I have videos on all this, but if you need specific help, you are more than welcome to reach out and make a short appointment with me. We can find that out in a matter of half an hour, very quickly. You do want to work with your prescribing physician and your primary care currently if you're deciding to microdose with cannabis. It's not something you would take, get you off of your medicine or prescription synthetic medication off really quickly. You don't want that. What you want to do is you want to continue what you're doing. You want to add in cannabis, very small, and see the benefits of it. And then if it's time to get off synthetics, you need to have a professional on your side, if not a team of professionals. If you've been using a synthetic product for a very long period of time, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Let's work on that. But you can also do it on your own. So the positives of using this would be that instead of doing the alcohol or Valium or any of those synthetics, that you'd actually building homeostasis in your body, and you'd be focusing on, really addressing the issue versus just masking the issue. And you know what? The other major positive of microdosing is no one has ever died of cannabis, ever, or cannabis related issues. So I think it's pretty darn safe if you're using whole plant form cannabis. Now, I am 100% against industrial hemp in the physical body. I'm 100% against isolates in the physical body at this point until someone can come in and tell me differently, not prove me differently, but just tell me why, then I'll be okay with that. But the smaller amount of these things, the better. So these tinctures, and I have a video on this, these tinctures that have 2,000, 3,000 milligrams of CBD, I'm not buying it. That's synthetic, and that's not going to go in my body. So what I think is best is microdosing smaller amounts of real cannabis. So how do we do that? Well, here's 5 tips really quickly. 5 tips on how to microdose. So you want to make sure, and we talked about this a little bit, you want to make sure everything's clean, your product is clean, it's microdose friendly. What does that mean? Microdose friendly means that on the bottle, on the label, it's very specific about how many milligrams of THC or CBD or CBN or terpenes or whichever, it's on there. It's labeled, and it's very easy to say, okay, this is an edible, this needs to be cut into 6 parts, because then each one of those is 1 milligram of THC, right? Or 2 or whatever. But you know how many pieces to cut. So it's very specifically, written on the labeling, the packaging, or the dropper can have a, chart on the chart or label on the particular dropper of dosage, and then the bottle will tell you how much is in each one of those. So 0.5 milligrams and so on and so on. So the product itself is clean and organic and yummy, but it's also microdose friendly. The other thing is small and precise. You want everything, this is tip number 2, you want everything to be small and precise. Each time you want it to be measured. And this is number 3, measured amounts. So each time you're writing this down, at 7 a.m. I took 1 drop, which would equal 1 milligram of THC CBD, parts per million. You can write all that stuff down if you want, but that you measure those amounts and you stick to a schedule. Which brings me to number 4, carefully plan. You carefully plan that microdosing method. The same time of day, the same amount. Okay, this is also going to go across the board with mushrooms, LSD, and any other kind of thing that you might want to microdose. Today we're just talking about cannabis, but truly this microdosing method is the same with any of them. So dosage and the mode of ingestion needs to be the same. Try it for a while, a week. Once you get to a certain place, people ask me all the time, microdosing, how do you know if it's working? Well, it shouldn't feel different for a while. And the moment that you increase that, it still shouldn't feel any different. When you start to feel a little different, that's when you're starting to go into this altered state of kind of tripping, and that maybe not what you want, so you know to back down. Let's see, 3 ways of microdosing, and this is a very long video, so I'll probably break it down into shorter videos after, but you're getting the full enchilada. So 3 ways to microdose. 1, drops. You can do 2 drops of a tincture, and that is 1 milligram of cannabinoids. 1 milligram. Number 2, you can do flowers. You can just do 1 puff or 1 toke or 1 pull, and you'll know, oh, okay, that's what this feels like. That's counterintuitive for a smoker or a long-time smoker or a long-time cannabis user, because we want to smoke the whole entire joint. But if you are microdosing, then you're needing to start small and build yourself up. That's what microdosing is, so you can microdose every single day. Edibles, 1 milligram of THC is great to begin with, just 1 milligram. So cut your little edible up, 1 milligram, perfect. Try that for a few days. Bump yourself up to 2 milligrams. The goal isn't to see how much you can do. The goal is to maintain health for a long period of time with this small amount as possible. If you know anything about homeopathic medicine, you know that the smaller amount makes a bigger effect, right? So if you don't know anything about that, do a little research on homeopathy. Who can be a great candidate? Anyone having any of the issues that we talked about earlier. If you want to increase your performance, you want to increase mental clarity, you want to be more productive, you have psychological or physiological stresses, and you want to see if cannabis works for you, just do a small amount and see if there's a benefit. You do not have to do 2 or 3 droppers full of tincture and get 10,000 milligrams of synthetic isolate CBD into your body and plow through products. Silly. Get a good quality product, local, organic, sustainable, these people you trust, and microdose it and see what happens from there. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, a little bit longer than anticipated, but that's how that works whenever I get to go on a topic that I really like. So if you would like to have more information, head on over to the Cannabis Holistic Institute, or you can go to my website, drpepperhernandez.com, where cannabis education, all your needs are met there. And we're learning from world's leading cannabis experts here in Humboldt County. Have a beautiful, magical, wonderful day. Make this your very best day ever. Bye, guys.